What can we expect in the Season 7 finale of Game of Thrones, The Dragon and the Wolf? This will be the longest ever episode of Game of Thrones at nearly 80 minutes, and there are a lot of plot lines to tie up. Hi everyone, this is Robert. Welcome to Deep Geek. Please do consider subscribing if you enjoy the video. As always, there are potential spoilers here from the preview trailer and other official materials, though no set leaks or photos, so be warned if you want to go into the episode completely fresh. Incidentally, almost all of the pre-season trailer footage was from the first 6 episodes of the season, so we actually have very few official sources to go on. Just the short preview trailer for episode 7, and extrapolating forward from the wide range of plot lines that need resolving. The main focus of this episode will inevitably be the meeting in the Dragon Pit at King's Landing, which we will come onto in a moment, but let's start up at Winterfell. We left Sansa in an apparently difficult situation. Arya has found the letter she sent back in Season 1 begging Robb to bend the knee. She has sent Brienne away, and now seems to be relying on Littlefinger for advice once more. But as I've set out several times in my previous videos, I think Sansa and Arya are playing Littlefinger here, and I think it will end in his death. I don't think we know enough yet to predict what the exact trigger is, but Littlefinger's plan seems quite clear. He still wants to marry Sansa, and for her to rule the North, so he's been trying to turn her against Jon and Arya, and is trying to get the Northern Lords to press her into power. So, presumably, Arya and Sansa's plan is to lull him into a false sense of security, so that he pulls the trigger on his coup attempt. Perhaps they catch him in the middle of plotting against Jon, or he tries to force Sansa into marrying him as the only way to protect her against Arya. Whatever it is, I think we've had enough clues in this season that it will be Arya who finally does it. Perhaps face-changing to be Sansa in order for Littlefinger to let his guard down, and almost certainly using the cat's paw dagger that has been passed around the Stark siblings this season. The other thing happening up at Winterfell will presumably be Sam and Gilly's return to the North. They are returning with a whole host of knowledge about how to battle the White Walkers, and know half the story about Jon's parentage and legitimacy, although he and Gilly are currently unaware of the importance of the information they have. It's not clear how this information will come out, but surely it will. If I had to speculate wildly, perhaps Bran will greet the two of them by doing another one of his spooky mind-reading tricks on them, learning about Rhaegar's annulment and remarriage, tying it together with what he learned from his vision at the end of Season 6. So the season will end with Bran at least, and possibly also Sam and Gilly, knowing the full truth about Jon's heritage. Perhaps this will be accompanied by a flashback. The pre-season casting calls certainly implied that we might see Rhaegar and Robert Baratheon in his youth, so perhaps the tourney at Harrenhal? Or maybe just Rhaegar and Lyanna's wedding. The title of the episode is The Dragon and the Wolf, and I'm sure this refers to Daenerys and Jon, about which more later, but I do also wonder whether it also refers to Rhaegar and Lyanna, increasing the likelihood of a flashback. If they want to go for a full fan service, well, this fan anyway, Mira Reed will return with her father Howland to tell the whole story from an eyewitness's perspective, but I fear that might be asking for too much. Maybe in Season 8. And however it happens, I am reasonably confident that we will head into Season 8 with the full truth about Jon having been pieced together and about to break. Jon himself will be heading down to King's Landing oblivious and on the boat with Dany, and I'm sure we will see their relationship deepen further. The dragon and the wolf. They will arrive in King's Landing to a massive build-up of troops. Tyrion told us in episode 6 that this was the plan, and it's clear from the trailer that he is going through with it. The remainder of Dany's fleet arrive to be greeted by Euron's fleet. Grey Worm has brought the Unsullied across from Casterly Rock to be joined by the Dothraki, The dragons circle overhead, and the Lannister forces are fully entrenched in King's Landing. Perhaps Cersei has even managed to get her Golden Company sellswords by this point too. In short, the gathering is a powder keg. If there is too much provocation on either side, a cataclysmic battle is almost inevitable, as are many, many deaths. But I don't think we will see any of that. There will be a lot of build-up, and sometimes it will probably seem a little touch and go. I think we can expect Cersei to goad Dany, after Tyrion suggested she might last episode, perhaps by politely inquiring where her other dragon is, or by telling her quite how many anti-dragon scorpion ballistae she now has. But I think that the threat of mutually assured destruction will ultimately keep everyone in check. All parties are clearly allowed into the dragon pit without hindrance. We don't actually see Dany in the trailer, but one of the 3 areas here is clearly set aside for her, so perhaps she drops in with Drogo later on as a bit of a power play, and they just don't want to show us. And Jon is allowed to give his presentation, pleading with them that, as he says, there's only one war that matters, and it's here. Meaning, of course, the White that Sandor has dutifully lugged and kept an eye on all the way from north of the Wall. Jon will be seeking a guarantee of the cessation of hostilities and a commitment to sending troops north to face the army of the dead. So we'll see the White released, and judging from this picture from the pre-season trailer, Sandor face it, showing that it keeps moving even after he's been chopping it to pieces. And I think we already know how people will react. And when I say people, I mean just 3 people, because most of those who are there will already have bought into what is needed. It really is just Team Lannister that needs to be convinced. Euron may well pick up on the fact that water and the White Walkers don't mix and feel confident of defending himself on the high seas or on his island home. Jaime has been on a long, very long journey during the 7 seasons we've had, but he has always had a willingness to prioritise the needs of the many over individual concerns, and will, I think, want to join up. And Cersei has already hinted at what she will do. She intends to play along with whatever is suggested and seek to gain an advantage from it. I can think of no better way for her to do this than to pretend to take it all seriously, wait for her opponents to head north and throw themselves against the army of the dead, while she solidifies her position in the south, while their backs are turned. Jaime will not be impressed by that plan. So the most logical conclusion of this summit is actually for it to appear to go well. The real tension will, I think, come from the meetings of so many characters in one place. There are a lot of plots and subplots to be resolved here, some from earlier in the season and others from much earlier. In no particular order, Sandor will almost certainly come face to face with his brother again. This is unlikely to end in Clegane Bowl this time, but I think it will cue up the logical end of Sandor's story arc. I'll be doing a video on this in a week or so's time, so look out for that. Theon will meet Euron again. The last time he saw him, he was holding his dagger to Yara's throat, and Theon will probably ask where she is, which will obviously lead to much mockery from Euron, and somehow must lead to this scene from the trailer. I can't for the life of me decide whether the figure on the left here is Euron or the ship captain who pulled Theon from the water, but it definitely looks like yet another bad chapter in Theon's life. Perhaps, as I speculated on one of my previous Q&A videos, he has discovered that Euron has cut out Yara's tongue. Bronn is also, unknown to him, the centre of a plotline that needs to be resolved. Cersei thinks that he should be punished for letting Tyrion into the city and has told Jaime as much. Jaime, of course, has a loyalty to Bronn now, as he should given the amount of times Bronn has saved his life. So I expect that Jaime will try to get Bronn away from Cersei in some way, probably by putting him in charge of the Lannister forces going north. Then there is Cersei's pregnancy. I think this will come to a head this episode as well. She doesn't look very, or even slightly pregnant in this picture, And even by the rather fluid timescales of this season, she must be at least a few months gone by this point. So either it was a lie on her part, in which case it will now be very obvious, or she has suffered a miscarriage of some kind. In either case, the renewed bond to her that Jaime felt when he heard the news will have gone. And Brienne also arrives back in Jaime's life at this point. She, perhaps more than anyone else, understands Jaime, and she will be able to appeal to the real him, of the reality of the threat to humanity, and the part of him, the most important part of him, that prioritizes protecting the people over his own reputation or well-being. And all of this, I predict, and I hope, will finally be enough to convince Jaime to turn his back on Cersei. He will, in her eyes, betray her again, but in his eyes he will just be doing what is right. And I think he will leave with Bronn and perhaps even some of the Lannister army to join the long march to the north. And with the army of the living finally assembled and heading north, I think the last scene of the season will be of the army of the dead. I think we will see the Night King climbing aboard his new dragon and flying south. But the question is, how does the wall come down to allow the rest of the army through? I suppose that we could see Viserion breathe fire or ice on it, or perhaps the Night King perform some new kind of magic on it, but I suspect that it would be linked somehow to the way he got past the magic in the Three-Eyed Raven's cave. Then he marked Bran, who was inside the cave, creating a bond between them and breaking the magical barrier. Perhaps Bran's mark is still active, and the Night King can simply use it again. Or perhaps, and please forgive me for putting a tinfoil theory in here, perhaps he has somehow smuggled someone else through the wall, who he has already marked. Wasn't it strange how all of the Whites in that party led by the White Walker died when the White Walker was killed, except for one? If Beric and Jon's theory is correct, that means that someone else raised that particular White. Perhaps it was the Night King himself. And perhaps the Night King knew they were coming, sent out that group of Whites knowing that only one would survive, then didn't attack the group of humans until Dany had arrived to take that one White away. Perhaps that one White has been marked by the Night King, allowing him to break down the magic of the wall, as he did when he marked Bran. As I said, it's a tinfoil theory, but I like it. Anyway, one thing I am reasonably confident on is that the last scene of the season will be the wall coming down, and the army of the dead finally marching into the land of the living. What do you think? What else do you think will happen in the season finale? Let me know in the comments below. If you'd like to support me in producing more videos like this, as well as getting access to more of my content, please click through to my Patreon page. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to know when my next video comes out, then please click on the subscribe button and make sure your notifications are enabled. Thanks for watching. That's all for this time. I'll see you again soon.